From the Tech in San Jose, welcome to another Tech Closeup. I'm Mark Albertson, and despite our show's name, we're about a whole lot more than just gadgets and gizmos. We're also going to take you behind the scenes to meet some of the incredible and creative people who make Silicon Valley's innovations come to life. In this month's program, we'll see how police and fire agencies in one California community are working together in an unusual project to break down some surprising communications barriers. We'll meet two inventors whose passion for building top-line audio equipment has taken them in a whole new direction. And Christina King shows how a group of talented high school students is using digital technology to memorialize fallen soldiers from the war in Iraq. And maybe you remember a cartoon show called The Jetsons about a crazy future family with all sorts of funky conveniences, like they'd get into a flying car and whisk away to wherever they want to go. Well, you know, robotic cars may sound far-fetched, even by today's standards. Or maybe they're not. In fact, we found a local company with an incredible car in which the computer does the driving and the passenger just goes along for the ride.
It looks like any other car, except for the strange spinning wheel on top. Inside, a computer mounted to the roof is programmed to talk to the steering wheel. This thing drives itself.
So first we had to build a mechanism to steer the car. And so we used the motor here. This motor is actually out of my robot that competed in the year 2000.
Dave Hall is the brains behind this self-propelled vehicle. 2 years ago, he designed the computerized car to race in competitions. It was his romance with robotics that started it all.
Well, this all goes back to the battle bots and robot wars, when back around 6-7 years ago. We saw them on TV and said, hey, here's a chance to be on TV.
In 2004, Dave and his brother Bruce entered their co-creation in a first-of-its-kind race sponsored by the research arm of the United States military. The goal? Design and build a vehicle that can travel 140 miles across the Nevada desert with no one behind the wheel.
So it's a very tough problem to solve. If you think about humans and all the things you do to drive a car properly, to teach a computer to do that with a car is very, very difficult.
Their car made it just 6 miles in the challenge. No other car made it past 7 miles. The Halls won third place, though, and vowed to keep working on improvements, all the while working their real job as co-founders of the successful Velodyne Acoustics in Morgan Hill, California. This is where they design and manufacture subwoofers for high-end sound systems.
Our original claim to fame was a servo control system which actually made a loudspeaker sound dramatically better than conventional speakers. And that manifested itself in a line of subwoofer systems, which is products used to recreate deep bass and create that thunder that you hear in movie soundtracks and things like that. And we've built an entire business around that.
Now they hope to build a business around this. Tweaking the software and hardware on their car allowed the brothers to come up with groundbreaking new technology. Remember that funny-looking thing on top of the car? It's actually a sensor using lasers to help the car see and maneuver around obstacles.
We actually took 64 lasers and we built them into this wheel, and we fixed the alignment on a vertical plane for each of the lasers, and then we spun the wheel. So the wheel would spin around and each laser would sweep across the terrain, firing out points as it went to figure out exactly what the whole terrain looked like. So what we really brought to the table and that we have a patent pending on is this massive amounts of data relative to time-of-flight data points that give us a very rich, what we call a point cloud, which is a series of points that map out the terrain and the environment in front of us.
Their hope is that this fast-spinning laser mapping system will have military and consumer uses in the near future.
I think it goes about 250 to 300 RPM. If it goes any faster than that, it looks like it's going to fly off like a Frisbee, and so it scares us.
The brothers considered entering their car with its new system in a third Grand Challenge race, but they figured if you can't beat them, join them.
There's a kind of a buzz going around the community that without our sensor you will be unable to complete this race. So we're very excited that we've developed this sensor. We're very excited that we're shrinking it, and in my words, a business is born, because we are now in the autonomous sensor business to the point where we may not even enter the next race and simply supply sensors to those teams that are entering.
So right now it's an experimental business, but if we can get enough, if we can demonstrate that you can actually do something useful with this thing, like have some mission that actually can succeed, then I have a market for this thing.
We envision a sensor such as ours on every vehicle ever sold, because it just makes sense.
It makes sense from a safety standpoint, too. If a car can see and steer around an obstacle, it could prevent accidents. But the Hall brothers admit they're driven by more selfish motivations.
The goal is to sit in your car and flip a switch and have it drive up to Tahoe without you doing anything about it. And I'm for sure confident that even if we had to do that in 6 months, you could do it as reliably as a human's doing it now.
And by all signals, it's a smooth road ahead. For Tech Closeup, I'm Christina King.
The Tech's Judy Peterson is here with us for my favorite part of the show, the Tech Bite. I understand you're going to make me a space guinea pig.
Yeah, I have a challenge for you this month.
Okay.
We're going to show you how to use the jetpack, which is actually one of our more popular playthings here at the Tech Museum. Kids line up to see it, but it's a lot of fun for adults too.
But this is more than just a ride. What is this?
Well, it's actually a simulator of what it would be like to be in space and try to pick up a glass of water and drink out of it, or try to put a screw into, a nut and unscrew it, because you're experiencing weightlessness. The real object of this particular thing, though, is we have a green dot and a red dot, and you try to get the green dot over the red dot, and you're kind of floating around.
So that's what you're going to have me try here.
Yeah, and I want you to try and do it 3 times in 1 minute. Good luck.
Now, Pat, you run the machine, right? Yes, okay. And you're going to make sure that I'm not going to actually go into space, right? Okay. All right. Okay. And I have to watch my step here, I see. Okay. This reminds me of the Mercury astronauts, of how they trained. I remember it takes me back to Alan Shepard and John Glenn. All right. All right. I got to get this to... Well, that's easy. Oh, there. Okay. All right. And it's actually, this is how it would be like moving in space. There you go. Now I got, which one do I go to now? And I have a time limit? Does that count? It's like in hockey that I didn't make it, did I? No. Well, how'd I do?
Well, you cheated on the first one because it was right there.
Well, I'm back on Earth. So how realistic is this?
Well, that's actually how the astronauts trained, and so you're really feeling how they feel when they're in space. A lot of fun, isn't it?
I'm sure the kids get a lot out of it. What about the adults?
Love it. Everybody loves it. People literally line up, and it's one of our more popular attractions.
Well, you really outdone yourself when it comes to a tech bite. Thank you, Judy. We've seen it before. A major natural or man-made disaster, police and fire departments respond in force, and they can't talk to each other. Their communication systems either break down or they're incompatible. It's what happened in 9/11 and in Hurricane Katrina. Unfortunate tragedies that taught some unfortunate lessons. Well, here in the Silicon Valley, there's a major effort underway to ensure that the message from those lessons is heard loud and clear.
We hate to interrupt you. We've just been told.
It happened on 9/11.
The World Trade Center is obviously...
The police
got information that the second tower was about to collapse. Fire did not get that same information because they couldn't talk to one another.
It happened when Katrina slammed into New Orleans. Time and again, lives lost, not just to terror or nature, but because of flaws in communications.
Name your tragedy. Every single one of the after-action reports say lives were lost because first responders couldn't talk to each other. That's a problem that needs to be solved. Again, welcome. Thank you very much for being here, and thank you for being part of the solution to interoperability issues.
In the Silicon Valley, where technology is king, local, state, and federal agencies are trying to resolve communication gaps before the worst ever happens.
If someone says, I'm going to communicate with that person, and that person will say, well, you can't. You're on VHF and I'm on UHF. We have a gap. That's the sort of thing we're looking for.
The Silicon Valley's Regional Interoperability Project staged a make-believe terror attack, a safe way to find deadly communication gaps. Police, fire, and rescue personnel sat down for spontaneous role play to map out how they'd respond to an attack.
The players' functions are to give us their honest statement of what you're going to do at a certain place in a given situation.
The scenario: a big Northern California July weekend, the popular Gilroy Garlic Festival, San Jose's Grand Prix Racing, and a Giants game in San Francisco. All three draw huge crowds, a ripe target for Al-Qaeda to make a violent statement.
At that point, what agency would be receiving that first 911 call? That would be us. And that would be who?
The playbook calls for a terror bomb to blow up in the racetrack stands. Hundreds die. Law enforcement jumps in.
So basically, once we receive the phone call, it's entered in our computer system and given to the police and fire officers via radio.
And we have a trunk radio system here. We have a Motorola system of some known vintage here, right? Okay. And everybody else is being notified via landline. Gotcha. Okay.
We heard some of the agencies say, we would call the other dispatch center by the telephone. Well, what if the telephone isn't working? How would you contact the other dispatch center?
With $140 million in federal funds, Northern California agencies hope to fill in the technical gaps. One solution, called Baymax, allows multiple police and rescue agencies to share the same emergency radio channel. But it's only one channel.
Heaven forbid a major tragedy occurs, that one channel will soon be overwhelmed. So we can't just solve it just that one way. We have to employ some other technology.
That technology may amount to some inexpensive patches that let phones, radios, and computers work together.
What we've tried to do is take a look at what the existing systems are and create the bridges or interconnects so that we can use existing systems. We don't have to throw all of that away and go to one new system.
The Interoperability Project dates back 7 years, before 9/11. Homeland Security funds now run dozens of projects like this around the country, and Silicon Valley's progress may set some nationwide standards.
So we think the technologies that we've defined will help us to be ahead of the curve. We actually are noted to be one of the top projects in the country on interoperable communications.
Well, at this point, probably Palo Alto should go to Baymax, because we have so many fire and police personnel dispatch now. Baymax, we can all talk to each other.
Lessons learned by organized role play face a bigger test in September. That's when agencies plan a field test up and down Northern California, a dress rehearsal for catastrophe.
Doing things like this is how you prevent it. If you practice, if you rehearse, you look at real-world events and what could happen here and train to what you would do in an emergency situation. Everyone does their part.
We're notifying people via landline.
Okay. So these are phone calls?
Through Motorola.
Okay.
Like they say, practice makes perfect. And among Silicon Valley's police and rescue agencies, practice may perfect technologies that help them get the word out before terror or disaster goes too far.
It was another plane hit the building and it collapsed.
Yeah, hold on.
When you think back to your childhood, you probably remember how you and your friends would hide out in a clubhouse, sort of a way to have fun away from the grown-ups. Well, in San Jose, there's a group of high school students who've got a different kind of a clubhouse, not one to hide out in. This is a digital clubhouse. It's one in which they are memorializing the men and women who've given their lives in Iraq. A very moving story now from Christina King.
Michael was born in Santa Rosa, California on January 29, 1959, about 3 a.m. on a gurney while I was waiting to be admitted to the hospital.
In her own words, one mother's story details on video the love and laughter she often shared with her son.
Michael always called me on my birthday and holidays. We had a running joke. The joke would start when Michael would call and say, "This is your son." I would say, even though I knew it was Michael, "Which one?" He would say, "The handsome one." I would then say the names of his 5 brothers until I finally got to his name.
It's a story of a man who grew up devoted to family and to strong ideals.
So when he was 17, he enlisted in the National Guard.
Jackie Cruz describes her son Michael as the family peacemaker. His younger brother agrees.
Mike was very easy to get along with. He was the most level-headed out of all of us.
A strength that would serve Sergeant First Class Michael Ottolini well in his more than 2 decades with the California National Guard.
Whenever anything came up like fires or floods that the guards were being called out because of being engineers, Michael was always stepping up first, saying, "I'll go, I'll go, I'll go."
But Jackie was shocked when he volunteered for duty in Iraq. Michael wanted to lead the young men he had personally trained.
We went down to the family orientation day at the Armory, and Michael went around to the families of all of the men in his unit saying how proud he was to have their son in his unit. And when I complimented him on that, he said, I wanted them to know what a good son they had in case they didn't come back.
She didn't know it then that it would be her son who would not come back.
The day he was killed, his unit was a little bit leery about going out, and he said, "I'll lead." And he was driving a Humvee, and it was destroyed by an IED, and he was killed instantly.
Michael never saw his new baby granddaughter before he died at age 44.
I don't want Michael's name to be just a name on a wall. I want people to look at this DVD and go, wow, that's a real life person. He left a family for our country.
But Michael's memory lives on, thanks to digital video, a story painstakingly produced and edited by a group of California teenagers learning about the sacrifices of war.
Really powerful lessons that kids otherwise are never going to find in the pages of a history book.
Warren Hegg is president and founder of the Digital Clubhouse Network, a nonprofit organization that started out in 1996 as a NASA focus group. Their goal was to find ways to use the internet to build better communities.
And what emerged from that was this idea that we needed a new kind of place for people of all ages to come together. And how do you get them to sustain a relationship? Well, storytelling.
As part of this latest project, these high school teenagers must meet with grieving families who have lost loved ones in Iraq. Their stories often begin with the written word. They then are transformed into an emotional video.
It starts with a knock at the door. Then you are informed of the loss of your loved one. At that moment, your lives are changed forever. Our loved one is Sergeant Adam Wayne Eastep, and this is our story about him.
Adam started his life blessed with a very loving family. As he started growing, he had a wonderful attitude and smile that would carry him throughout his life.
This project is 2 parts. There's the part where we're with the family, and then there's the part when we're at home recreating what the family feels. So we have to feel all the emotions twice. We have to sit there and we have to look at their faces and watch them get upset and cry so that we can know exactly the parts that emotion has to be transferred. So we are replaying that emotion over and over again while we're at home trying to fine-tune these wonderful stories and bestow upon them the justice that they deserve.
The project can seem overwhelming at first. Richard Chen is a sophomore.
So I'm just kind of scared that I can't make a movie that measures up to what the families have in mind sometimes.
But later, Chen and his freshman partner call their first such challenge a success. Theirs is the story of Michael Ottolini.
In making the movie, you kind of want to make it better for them, and it's kind of like healing for them, making the movie, talking about it.
You have to imagine, you've got 15-year-old girls sitting down with bereaved families who are still very much in pain. Their child wasn't that much different in age. And our kids being exposed to that, our young, shouldn't even calling them kids, our young people being exposed to perhaps the most intimate of all family experience, of all human experiences, the loss of a loved one.
The emotional work takes time. Transferring decades of memories onto a computer screen is a small part of the job, which often takes 20 hours or more each month.
They're extraordinary. That's what I know. They're extremely dedicated to this project. They have a sense of commitment to the community overall in the projects that they've been working on.
Some people are good writers, so we tend to have them help us write the scripts. Some people are good computer people, so we have them put together the movies. And some people can see the movie in their heads, and we have them do the storyboards and do the pre-production.
Ken and I were a team growing up, him and me. Whether it was traveling to visit family, taking in a Giants game, or visiting Lake Tahoe, it was the blonde kid and me. We were a team.
The videos are shown at community gatherings and on the Digital Clubhouse national website.
I think if you ask any parent, regardless of their politics, they would say, please don't forget my child. Always remember my child.
Karen Meredith lost her only child in Iraq.
Ken might have known he only had 26 years to fill his lifetime of memories and experiences. He didn't settle for spending time on ordinary things. He jumped out of planes, rode horses, and surfed as he traveled the world.
So he always had a smile on his face, always, all his pictures, and he loved being a soldier.
Lieutenant Ken Ballard was 26 when he was killed in May 2004.
I was terribly frightened every single day he was gone. I know the responsibility he felt to the men assigned to him weighed heavily on him. The goal was to bring them all home alive. It didn't happen the way they planned.
Ken was never able to get a pass to come home during his 18 months in Iraq. Karen now says she's thankful Ken's memory is preserved through technology that reaches out to all.
Our little boys and girls grew up to be these strong men and women, and this is who is serving our country, and this is who is dying in our country. But we just don't want them to be forgotten.
Lieutenant Ken Ballard was killed in a fierce battle in Najaf, Iraq. All things considered, I guess I was right to have war on my mind that beautiful day back in July 1977. Maybe I knew all along. Sometimes a mother just does.
Welcome to Fast Forward here on Tech Closeup. This is a segment where we focus on new trends in electronics, and we sort of educate you about them so that you can go out and try it out yourself. We have Rob Enderle here with us. He's a noted industry expert, I call him, industry analyst, and you're really helpful in helping us get to the common denominator of some of these products. Today I want to talk about wireless routers. It's something that I think as families grow, or even husbands and wives in the business world, we gotta have this.
Well, it's kind of how you move around the home. If you think about it, if you're working from home, it's kind of nice to be able to work in the living room, be with the kids while you're working, as opposed to being locked up in the office. In fact, I find I go out in the patio now and I'm able to work out on the patio, and wireless really frees you up. It allows you to go out and work wherever it is you want to work. The problem with wireless, though, is very often the wireless router doesn't have enough range, and so you go out in the patio and suddenly you have no connection to your laptop computer. And that's where we're going to a new generation of technology that allows you kind of to address that problem.
Well, yes, and they're constantly updating. And you know, I have to check at home if I even have the latest. But this is something, we have to mention something important about this particular product. This is Netgear wireless router. This is very new.
It is relatively new, yep, this first half of the year.
Okay, and this is going to widen your range quite a bit.
Quite a bit, and increase your throughput. It has about twice the throughput of a regular router. So if you're, if somebody's browsing the web, they're watching movies,
which is very
playing
common.
games, and they're doing it all at once, you need the extra bandwidth. In fact, what a lot of people don't realize is with the old 802.11g stuff, which is the stuff that was out there last year, if you turn on the microwave, it actually degrades the signal enough so that if you wanted to watch a video or whatever over the network, you probably couldn't do that anymore.
Okay, and
so
then
this gets around that.
Well, that's great. And if you're downstairs, say, a lot of people just don't have the range in their home.
Well, that's,
you're downstairs and you can't even get a signal.
You can't get a signal.
And you're frustrated and cursing like me.
Yeah, well, very often what we find is the signals don't move up and down very well. They move laterally. So if you've got a multi-story home, particularly with the old stuff, and you move downstairs, you just didn't get a signal anymore. And so this new technology allows you to do that. It's much more powerful. It pushes through a much broader pipe, so it's more data. And the only catch is, if you've got a notebook computer, even if you've got built-in wireless, you have to get a new card because you need a new radio.
Okay,
you
now,
need the technology at both ends.
And listen to this, because this is something that your store clerk may not tell you about.
Probably
you'll get this new router home and you'll say, but wait a second, this isn't that much better than what I had before. That's where this comes in, the wireless PC card.
PC card. And one other thing to remember is we're in what's called pre-standard, which means every one of these things is different. These two products have to match. You can't buy this from Linksys and buy this from Netgear and figure they're going to work together, because they won't. Or from D-Link and Netgear. You have to buy the same part from the same company. And so if they're matched up, they're going to work. Make sure it says on it whatever the technology is. So in this case, it's Range Max. You want Range Max on both boxes. So it's the same kind of stuff from the same vendor, in which case you'll have a good experience.
Okay. And anything else for people that have problems with their range? This will help that.
Yes.
For people who have a big family who want to do different things on their computers,
or want to watch
rooms.
movies. For instance, if they got movies on one computer, they want to watch them on another computer, which and movies require a fat pipe. Then you kind of need something like this. The big thing right now is IPTV. This idea of being able to watch TV over the internet.
Right.
If you're going to do that, you're going to need this. Now, one other thing to remember is the standard that's going to fix the fact that you have to get these two things from the same company is being addressed in the summer. And so if you're able to wait until the second half of the year, you'll then be able to buy one of these from one company, one of these from another company, and they'll actually work together.
Okay,
Doesn't
so
happen now.
somebody's figured it out and said, we need to rectify this.
Well, it's standards. As time goes on, you get a standard up there. The vendors comply with the standard, and stuff works together.
This is why we like standards.
Absolutely.
Okay.
We love standards.
Yes, we do, and we love you, Rob. Thank you for helping us out. We'll look forward to talking with you again.
Thanks.
This has been Fast Forward here on Tech Closeup, and if you want any more information on wireless routers or any of the other gadgets that we focus here on Tech Closeup, all you have to do is go to our website. It's techcloseup.com.
There's always a lot going on with Tech Closeup, both on and off the air, but you can keep up to date and get a complete listing of broadcast times on your own individual cable system on our website, techcloseup.com. Thanks for joining us. I'm Mark Levinson. And remember, if you want to stay close to the technologies that drive this incredible Silicon Valley, then join us next time for another edition of Tech Closeup.